All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Christer, and I am the director of Bleeding Audio, which is a documentary that is currently playing at the Slamdance Film Festival for their 2021 program. You can go to www.slamdance.com and get a $10 pass that gives you access to not just our film, Bleeding Audio, but also their entire film festival program, which is awesome. And there's so many other great films, so I very much encourage you to check it out. We are here today with the finishing house CTSF based in San Francisco, who did all of the post-production finishing on Bleeding Audio. And we're gonna have a little discussion with them. So I encourage the crew to turn on your cameras and we'll start introductions and I'll give a little more insight. So what's going on?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hey, Adam.
Hey, Mark.
All right. Great. So if you guys could please go around in a circle, I'll kind of cue you and introduce yourselves and say what it is you do at CTSF. And then we'll start getting into the nitty gritty. So we'll start with you, Melanie.
Hi, I am Melanie Bass. I am the executive producer at CTSF. I also will produce certain projects depending on what they are. That's what I did with Bleeding Audio. And I oversee the projects from start through finish and make sure everything gets delivered and make sure Mark and Adam do their jobs.
Awesome. We'll go with Mark next.
You mean make sure Adam does his job. I am Mark Caney. I'm a flame artist at CT. We've been in business for about 11 years, I guess now, and the three of us have worked together for that long. And I do visual effects, motion graphics. I'm a creative director as well, and we make card tricks for fun on the side and post those on Instagram and TikTok.
Yes, I was going to say, you got to check out CTSF's social medias. They have the coolest card tricks. Adam?
Hi. Am I muted? No. I'm Adam Burke. I'm the colorist and partner owner at CT. I do mostly color. I'm also a flame artist, and I'm also usually the person that has to fix everything when it breaks.
That means nerd.
Mm-hmm. Resident nerd.
The resident nerd.
And if it's not broken, he'll break it, then fix it.
Just for fun.
Just for fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk with you guys. I think this is going to be a super fun panel. And so what I would love to start with is just for people who know what post-production finishing is, and for people who don't, I could give a little bit of a definition, but maybe if any one of you wants to kind of take on and explain what it is that you do, essentially just for me as a filmmaker, as soon as my movie is picture locked, which means there's no more editorial changes that are going to happen to it, that's when I, bring the film to a place like CTSF. So whoever wants to take the question first, just jump in and go for it.
I can take this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically what we do is, like you said, once your picture is locked, then the film comes to us for what's like final polishing. So we're going to do a number of things. The first thing we're going to do is conform the film, which means we're going to take all the highest resolution quality video and recreate your timeline so that everything looks as good as possible. With a documentary like this, that can be a really complicated process because we're working with so many different formats and so much different material and photos and old video and so many different camera types. And so the conform process is not minimal. I'd say that was probably one of the biggest challenges with this film. And then outside of the Conform, we're also doing final graphics, titles, lower thirds, the credits, and then the color grade. So Adam can elaborate on that, but basically it means making all of your footage look as good as possible, as consistent as possible, so that it doesn't distract from the story. It actually can help enhance your story. And then the final part of our process is delivery, which with a film like this, deliverables can range from something specific for the theater that it's going to, or, something for YouTube. So it just depends. And, but again, not a minimal part of the process.
No, we're still delivering versions of the film.
I was going to say delivery usually extends to be take at least a year.
Yes, that is also true. And to kind of speak real quick to Melanie's point, something that was definitely challenging being an indie documentary is, our production spanned the course of 3 years. And so, people ask me, oh, what camera did you shoot it on? And my answer was always whatever I could get my hands on. So we had, Canon 5D Mark IIs, Mark IIIs. We had, the red camera. There was a Blackmagic camera in there randomly. There's like Sony A7S II. There's like, I'm not kidding. There's like iPhone footage. There's leftover VHS tapes. There's DVC tapes. It just, the laundry list of codecs and formats that we had was insane. And I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, this is something that comes up with documentaries pretty often. Yours had especially a wide variety of formats and material to work with, but anyone who's working on a project like this over the span of a period of time, like that's probably one of the biggest challenges they're going to run into, especially when they get to finishing. It's like, okay, you have all this different stuff. Now you need to, and you have a timeline, but what's the jump to getting it ready for a theatrical release?
Great. So to kind of go in a little deeper into what this process is like. So we've got the film conformed. Let's talk to Mark and talk a little bit about motion graphics treatments, title design, and what that process is generally for documentary for you, and then we can talk specifically about our collaboration on Bleeding Audio.
For us personally, to look at your film, which was already locked and Melanie had pushed us to see it. She goes, this movie's good. You guys should see it because I really want to work on it. And, of course, in my own way, I go, I'll be the judge of that. And here we go. And I watched it and it was great. It was already good. And the artwork from the band themselves, Sean Harris and, Justin Sansucci are amazing artists in their own right who just happen to be badass musicians, which I hate them twice now for 2 different things. So, but we didn't want to step on their toes. And then Marissa, who had done the animations throughout the film, kind of based on the match's art, didn't want to step on her toes. So our goal was to package the movie itself, for the film to work all on its own. It had its own look, its own feel for graphics. And we did a few visual effects in there too, to give the film its own voice. But upon talking with Chelsea, this was at the end of 2019, I believe. She was really open. You were really open-minded to our stuff. I like talking about you in the third person. It's more fun.
That's fine.
And you knew what you wanted. So just kind of, I threw some stuff together and you looked at it, you go, oh my God, I love that. And I'm, like secretly deep down, I'm going, of course you do. I know, right? It's good. But I didn't know if like the DIY, as you called it, was going to be right. And I wanted the handwritten type. Thanks, Adam. Now he mutes. I didn't want, so the handwritten type was one thing. And then to have all the little graphics, informational graphics come on in a different way. And then the visual effects we did on the photos, you know, to give them like a 3D feel, just to take it up a notch, another level. And then the one day you came in kind of in the last month, and am I allowed to say the F word on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You go, oh, fuck, I got to do a movie poster too. And I'm going, I'll do it. 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 I'll do that poster. Let me do it. I'll do that fucking piece of shit. Let me do it. And then I said, oh, you know what? I can throw something together. And you didn't know I'd already worked on it like for a week.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea that you were already working on it.
I didn't, but I do remember the one
Okay.
thing you said, because I did have hanging audio tape or something coming down. And you go, hey, I like the idea. Just, you know, this is like the digital age. And me as an old guy, like, you know, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. You go, well, you know, they don't really use audio tape like that stuff anymore. And so we changed it to guitar strings, whatever. And instead of having paint splatters, they became like spray paint stuff that kind of went with the matches art themselves. So, but that all tied into the package of the film. And, you know, the film would have been fine without our stuff in there, you know, like without these graphics. But I mean, you already had things, you know, like already
some motion,
yeah,
you know, but
you knew what you wanted, you knew where things had to go, and then we just filled in the gap. So
yeah, no, I mean, and it was really great, Mark, like collaborating with you on the visuals with that, because I feel like something that I remember coming to you with is that the matches were very sensitive about making sure that this didn't look like they were making their own movie. They made everything available to us. But it felt like too, when we were working on, you know, bringing in some of their visuals, the matches always kind of tuned in and they were like, hey, like, we love that you're using this stuff, but also, I mean, can you just make sure it's yours and not, you know, completely ours? And so Mark, like, kind of talking to you and bringing you, talking with you and bringing you some references and being like, hey, let's like embrace the DIY nature of it, but let's make sure it feels like matches adjacent. Like if it was the, you know, the band that was inspired by the matches, if we could somehow create that aesthetic, you know, that was still
absolutely.
DIY, but you know, maybe with a graphic design degree.
Well, yeah, the good thing about the style of it was I didn't really have to refine anything. It's like, you know, whatever animation I did, well, okay, that's fine. It fits the film. Here we go. Okay, move on. So, you know, in that respect, that seemed to work out in the best way. Of course, there was something like 470 graphics in there, but
it was a lot.
Yeah, that was one of the challenging bits in this film, was just like the level of organization with the graphics, because there's so many titles. And then Mark had all these little things he wanted to do as well. And so my spreadsheets were crazy, but I don't know, the payoff was good.
Absolutely. And the fact that we wove it in and out of other projects we were doing in the office. And that's where Melanie, if the world doesn't know what a producer can do for a film, you know, like in the finishing part, because you had your own producer for the film itself, Melanie was our producer. For her to weave, you know, things in and out, it's like air traffic control. And I think it took about 3 months for us to finish from the time we took it on. And I believe I worked on it almost every work day, a little bit in the mornings and at nighttime. And then if nothing else was going on, and, you know, just to get, you know, but still we kept working and working. And, you know, even till the last moment we worked.
Until
you know,
I was satisfied.
Guys brought in champagne and all that stuff. Like, what's the champagne for? We ain't done yet. It was that wishful thinking you were doing, you and Aaron were doing, and it was. Oh
yeah, we'll talk
I
about
think it's still in our fridge at work.
Yeah.
I think the champagne is still there.
Oh my God, amazing. But yeah, we'll talk about the overnights and the workflow and some of the indie film support that you guys, at least for us, that you did, and we'll talk about that too. But I would love to move on to Adam now. And so Adam, can you speak a little bit about what color correction is and or color grading, and also can you talk about it both from like a technical standpoint and a creative standpoint?
Absolutely. Grading is, in the romanticized fantasy version of it in my mind, color grading is a completely creative, entirely subjective process, but the reality usually is, at least the majority of the reality is usually the opposite. It's, I would say, if I'm being brutally honest, grading, especially on a film like this, the most important thing are the technical aspects, and it's really like a problem solving and sort of ultimate kind of last resort fix it tool. So, I mean, at the beginning of the process, like, so that we could be creative, at the end with the time we had left, the first part of my job, working with my assistant on the project, was to basically just get everything. Once Melanie and Mark and my assistant Alex had, gotten everything into the timeline, and that Conform Melanie was referring to, like, absolutely perfect. Like, we did a lot of work to bring sort of all of those different formats from, different cameras through generations of technology, all sort of into the same sort of space, so that the film kind of flowed without anything crazy jarring, and just sort of to create like a starting point for us to work from, in actually being creative. And that part of the process is really, about like us working together, like in terms of like the colorist and the colorist and director of photography sometimes, to sort of enhance the work that you guys did on set, and sort of sell the mood and the feeling in each different scene, so that it's, indisputable and compelling, and just to obviously try to make beautiful images as often as we can. But on a project like this, it really is there really is a big sort of technical hurdle to get over first, before you can really start to play around in the fun part of it. Does that kind of
Yeah, that was great.
Okay.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about creatively doing color, and what it is that you feel like, just when you are handed footage, bleeding audio or not bleeding audio, just what kinds of things creatively do you see being able to pull out of it? And just you can kind of explain that process too of
Sure.
doing creative color.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, well, like Mark and Melanie have mentioned, when we all first saw the film, we were all really excited about it, and just loved the movie, loved the story, loved everything about it. It was just like, I think we were all really impressed with just how sort of solid the kind of storytelling was, and it felt like a finished film, like a real movie already when we saw it, which is honestly not all that common. And so, yeah, we were excited about that. And so on this film, or any other project, like, that's really the first step, is watching it and kind of getting the feel for how the story flows from beginning to the middle to the end, and the ups and downs, and the sad moments and the happy moments and the triumphant moments, and all of that. And then, in color, like I said, trying to, the challenge is to try to work with what you all did on on location when you were shooting, and try to, work with that, and work with what is in the image, to just really make those sort of emotional moments hit, with with everything that's going on, with what you're hearing and seeing, obviously. So
Yeah,
it's really,
I know.
yeah.
Oh, I don't mean to interrupt. I was
No,
going to
go
say,
ahead.
I know that you were really excited to dig into some of the live footage we got, which I mean, the live footage is it was so kind of technically complicated because it's not like we had any additional lighting. It was all pretty dark. Like the ISO was really high. I think it was between 800 and 1600, maybe even sometimes 3200 on the red because of the slow-mo. And so can you talk a little bit about the color treatments that you did to the live footage, the sparkly red?
Sure. Yeah, that was yeah, that stuff towards the end of the film is definitely like my favorite part to work on, and definitely yeah, like my favorite moment in the film for sure. That was I'm trying to think. I think when I first I knew, you know, when I first saw the film, I knew that like I was like I couldn't the entire time working linearly through the timeline, I was like that sort of section towards the end was like the carrot on the stick, kind of like baiting me to keep moving forward because I was looking forward to working on that. It was just like beautifully shot. Lots of, you know, slow motion is always super epic, especially with, you know, with the band as the subject matter, and the crowd too. Really, honestly, like the fans and the crowd, I think are really like some of the most interesting parts of those shots. But honestly, that section was I just sort of dove into it and just tried doing a bunch of different sort of weird things until I came up with something that I thought looked cool. And thankfully, I hope that you liked it and everybody else likes it. But
Pulled it off.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, I definitely took like there's definitely sort of like a non-traditional sort of approach, and I definitely used a few sort of just tricks and broke a few rules, technical rules in grading that footage, just because I mean I think it worked. It called for it in that scenario.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. We get a ton of comments about how kind of dreamy and colorful the end footage is. So yeah, it was amazing. And so I'm gonna kind of shift the conversation, and I know that I'm moderating this, so you know, don't hold back any punches. I can take it. But I was gonna say, what is it like working with directors? And it's a twofold question, which is one, like, you know, talk about what that collaboration process is, but also like if there's anything you wish you could tell a director to do before they come to you, like, you know, what is that? Like, what's the dream scenario? And you can totally throw me under the bus at any point. I can take it.
Okay.
Hey, I'll
No,
take
go
this one. Well, I think first and foremost, like you came to us with a film that was already, like everyone has said, like it was already good, and you already had something that like we definitely wanted to work on. And that's a big thing because we do get a lot of directors that come to us, and the reality is like there's not a lot of money in a documentary, if there's any money at all. And so we have to love the film as much as the director loves the film, because we're going to invest a lot of time and energy into it. And if it's not doing anything for us, then like we can't put ourselves into it. So yeah, you came to us with a great story. And that's, I think, for any other filmmakers, if you know you're looking for a finishing house or someone to work on your film, like get your edit to a point where it is a great story. Like make sure it is like a finished edit, because you have to sell it to people you want to work. You know, if you don't have any money, or if you have very little money and you're trying to get people on board, you have to sort of sell it to them. And I think, Chelsea, you came in really prepared for that. Like you sent us the link to the film. It was the end of the workday. I watched a little bit of it before I left for the day, and I had planned to watch it the following day, and I ended up going home and just finishing it because I just wanted to watch it. It was so good. And I immediately knew, like, this is the project we want to work on. And so that's, I think, the number one thing, regardless of whether it's a doc or a narrative film, it's like the story has to be there for everyone to, for it to be good. And you had that, and that's what got us on board to work on it.
As well, I just want to add a little something to it, which, didn't hurt at all, was the fact that you're in San Francisco, our shop is in San Francisco, the band's from right across the bridge in Oakland, and that made it doubly, like we felt we had to work on it. I think at that, the movie was good, like Melanie, we all said, you knew it was good, or else you wouldn't have brought it. Or I hope it's good, because it is. The movie's good.
Getting over my match's humility here, but no, you guys are saying some very nice things. I'm absorbing, but no, thank you.
Well, no, I'm setting you up, because now I'm going to let you have it.
Okay, great. Yeah, tear into it.
No, the thing is, there is no perfect world. I mean, because no matter how well prepared you were with everything you brought to us to, finish the movie, we have to find things to rip, because that's how we work.
That's how you work.
But, well, it's true. It's like, I don't care if it was Gone with the Wind. I'm like,
we're fueled by aggravation.
Do they even know what a camera is? Stuff like that. But there are some groans here and there, like mostly, coming from the color grading side of things. It's true, because he had to find that, commonality. This thing's an hour and a half long, and he had to find that thread all the way through. And then the way Adam put it was not to make things too jarring and this and that. And, from the other standpoint, about the graphics and stuff, you had your wish list, and, which is good, because you gave us a wish list, and then you gave us, if you guys have a chance, can you make this stuff too? And we tried to get as much of those as possible in there. Certain things just, because you did put a lot of work into the offline edit, you did little moves on stuff, and we wanted to leave a few of those in there, because that was your hard work, and we didn't want you or the editor to, it's like, man, why'd they take out that thing I did? I spun a photo, man, that was cool. So things like that. But this was one of the better prepared films we've worked on, I have to say, because it was already done.
I was just going to add one quick little thing to that. Just in thinking back, especially on a feature length film that's been shot over a number of years, I don't think that we could have done it had it not been for your knowledge of the specific files that we were working from.
Encyclopedic mind.
Yes. Like, if it weren't for your mental map of where everything was, exactly what it was, what sort of processing this set of files has been through, if any, where the original version of those files, like, if it weren't for your mental image of all of that very detailed, very specific information, I don't think the film would not, it would have, the technical quality of the finished product would have suffered, I believe. And so if I were to give you any criticism, it would be,
let her have it.
It would be, or just in general,
waiting
I think
a year for this.
It's so important. I just think in general, it's the more organized you are with all of your raw original material, the better. And yeah.
Yeah, and just like from a directing standpoint on a documentary, here's my rebuttal. No, I'm just kidding. The thing is like all the footage we shot, because I had got my career started, almost 15 years ago as an assistant editor, right? So like file organization is so important to me. But what happened is, all of our interviews and all of the content that we were filming was beautifully organized, but the film ended up being like 80% archival. And the archival was handled by like interns and, volunteer assistant editors, and it passed like 4 or 5 different hands. And it was basically one of the few things that I didn't have any hands on. And I'm not trying to like pass the blame, but it was something that was always at the bottom of my to-do list, which was like organize archival. And it's like, I feel like as a documentary filmmaker, and especially as a documentary director, I feel like it's so important to learn post workflows and learn how to organize your shit, because I have a crazy encyclopedia brain, and like I knew where all this footage was. I understood and knew where it all came from. I was able to recall and find those items that had gone offline in the edit. But like, if I didn't, we'd still be working on the film probably right now. Like it was.
So we're done. Are we done?
Huh?
We're done working
right?
on it? I don't know.
Like, I don't know.
Technically,
Your name comes up twice a week on our morning call.
Uh-oh.
That same Chelsea?
I still have things to ask for. No, but no, and I think it's just really important to be able to know your footage as a documentary director too, because that was something that helped in our edit, was like being able to recall certain interviews and things, and like, taking notes and knowing your, file structure and organization is so crucial. And anything we could do to help generous people like you, I think is so important, because it's such a process. So, but no, I thought this was very useful for directors who I know there are a few watching. And can you guys speak to, I have a couple questions that have actually popped up, so I'm gonna ask those in a minute. But can you guys speak to about just what CTSF does, and about like collaborating with filmmakers, and just you don't have to speak necessarily to Bleeding Audio, but like all the different types of work and films that you work on, and just let's get a little shout out for what you guys do.
Yeah, we primarily do broadcast and more like corporate type work. And we're doing everything from visual effects and motion graphics to color and finishing. And then occasionally we will work on a film like Bleeding Audio. But usually those are sort of our little extra projects that we take on.
Fresh air. We call those.
Yeah, I mean, it's
fresh air.
It's it's something creative for the guys, and it's just a nice change of pace for everyone in the shop.
and it's also kind of, I think, a way that we like to sort of contribute something to the community.
Sorry. I have to say, the film did not look like that, the way it does now. It did look, like if you see the before and after, there is definitely a polish on the film. So for people out there that don't understand the importance of color grading on a film, it is important. It looks like, a raw version of a film looks like it's shot through a screen door with Vaseline smeared on it sometimes, and then then the colorist brings out the life of that movie. They bring the life out of it and into it, breathe the life into the movie. So yeah, there's definitely a level up that we did to the film.
Hugely. I mean, especially with the motion graphics too, and the text and the exactly. And the text titles, all of the lower thirds, and the freaking poster, which I still have Matches fans like going nuts over the poster and asking me to do a print of it. But
yeah, we have a signed one for sale.
You're selling it. No, it was a gift. Right, it's a gift.
$100,000.
But I wanted to also just plug, like, that polish is so crucial. It I was watching deleted scenes because we're posting little deleted scenes bits on our Instagram just for fun, and like looking at all of the old clips and just like how clumsy it feels. And it's no discredit to my editors. It's just like, okay, here's a photo, and it kind of zooms in a little bit, and then like here's another photo, and it kind of zooms in a little bit. And then seeing too, something that I feel like filmmakers should know about with color correction is, you film interviews, you film an A camera and you film a B camera. Are they the same camera? Not often. And so they don't match, Yeah, not in this case. It was like red 5D, or
get her, Adam.
5D, 5D.
Get her. Now's your chance. Get her.
Well, I think we do.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've spoken to a lot of filmmakers that will mention that, maybe their editor is just doing a quick grade on something. And I try to push them to see how important having a really good colorist is, because you don't realize how distracting it can be to the story you're trying to tell when something doesn't look good. And you may not even realize how good it can look until it's in the hands of a colorist that can see ways to enhance the footage that you shot and help tell that story.
That as Melanie mentioned, like we work, really a big chunk of our work is broadcast advertising, so like TV commercials, and that was one huge challenge for me was just it's a huge like gear shift going from the like short form 30 15 10 5 or 6 second spot world to the 2-hour feature world. It's a completely different way of working, and that was I think maybe both a strength and a weakness that I maybe brought to the film, just in that being able to bring some of that like my commercial sensibilities to the color, but then also like I said, is definitely a pretty big, it's like shifting from first directly into sixth or whatever. Like it's a completely different gear.
We had a lot of late nights. It was fun. And Melanie fed us very well. It was very sweet.
That is like the most important thing. If you are producing anything, it's just keep people well fed.
And we were very well fed.
If you do nothing else, provide food.
Yeah. There were what was it, late nights and early mornings for sure. A few of those as we were creeping into the world premiere.
Everything will just take longer than you expect it to, especially when you're dealing with Adam was dealing with technical challenges that inherently just are going to take a little time to problem solve, and it always comes down to the wire, and it can be kind of fun and thrilling, and then it's over and it's a little sad, and
we're also working in between our day jobs too.
The other thing.
But yes, it always will take longer than expected, and there will always be late nights.
And I guess like that's another question is if say a filmmaking team is approaching you guys about their next project, can you kind of speak to how much time you would give them for like to actually get a film finished, depending on what the film is? If it's a documentary that has, literally every single film format that's existed in the past 20 years, like mine, or like a narrative film.
Yeah, it totally depends on what it is. We've graded narrative films in 2 weeks if we have to. Adam would always want more time than that if he can have it. But with a film like Bleeding Audio, the technical side of it is just going to take longer, and the Conform is going to take longer. And so 3 months is not an unreasonable amount of time, especially if we're working around other projects. Now, if someone came in and they have the budget to just book us for, a month solid, and we are just working full time on that, then that's one thing. But that never happens. So not with a documentary.
We were founded on a documentary.
Oh, really?
That's
We
true.
were, yeah.
Yes, another award-winning documentary. Yeah, we were founded on that, and that's how I came to CT in 2010. And we did the motion graphics and the finishing and all the visual effects on, I don't know how long it was, hour and 45. It was a long one. It was a long one. It had a lot of little tricks in there and stuff, a lot of work, and it took us 6 weeks, I believe.
It was like 8 weeks, or like 16 weeks.
Which documentary was this?
That was Misrepresentation.
Yeah, Misrepresentation.
Yeah, in 2009 or 10.
Yeah, I think she finished it in 2009. We finished it in 2010.
That was Jennifer Siebel Newsom.
Yes, and so yeah, that's
I mean, if someone's trying to budget how much time, I would say no less than a month and upwards of 3 months, just depending on what it is.
I was going to follow up with a budgeting and scheduling question. So you saw where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Because I know that for me as a first-time feature documentary director, really the hardest thing to know when you're applying for grants or when you're like trying to communicate with post houses and people who who can help you finish your film. I also come from a corporate and commercial world. And so for me, I'm like, oh, it'll be like 3 weeks, it'll be fine. Whereas like all of the technical challenges that come with it, I think it's important to have those realistic expectations going in. It took us a year, longer than a year, collectively with all the work to edit Bleeding Audio, with very little to no budget. And so the finishing, I mean, you guys breezed through it in comparison with the rest of the project, but like those 3 months were amazing to like get the experience of collaborating creatively and technically with you and your team. And plus you guys are just so fun.
Yeah, we're a blast.
It was so fun hanging out with you guys. So
yeah, it was fun. And Chelsea, when the first time you came in and met with me, it was like I was sort of gauging, like, are we gonna mesh well? Because that's another thing where it's
absolutely.
Like the director has to mesh with the creative team, especially if we're working on it for a low budget or no budget, and it's got to be fun. And otherwise the enthusiasm starts to wane and it's hard to get it through the finish line. It's such a commitment of time, and it's like you just have to keep going. And if so the relations,
if she wasn't so cool, it would have been done in a week. Like, no, we're done.
You guys sabotaged it? You guys take longer?
No,
I'm just kidding.
No, we're done. Chelsea, we're done. It's done.
It's over. I know, we're done.
Yeah, you can see it.
But yeah, I have to say that first meeting.
Go see it somewhere else.
Yeah, that first meeting with you guys, I remember thinking, okay, we have this meeting. We have to like come in and be, super ready and, tight-lipped, and we know exactly what we're going to talk about. And I remember sitting there and you guys were kind of gushing about the film. And I just honestly was like so close to bursting into tears just because it's like everything had been so challenging. And just like as a filmmaker, like we get rejections all the time. And I had been rejected so many times, and so like every yes is a huge win. It just like every yes kills all the 1,000 no's that you've heard up until then, And so I'll send it to you guys in a group chat after this. I know this is becoming a little more inside baseball, but I do this 1 second every day thing. And after Aaron and I met with you, I like recorded a little video of us like squealing with excitement at like how well the meeting went, because it was so amazing meeting you guys. And so I guess I encourage, I've got some questions coming up in the chat. So I'm going to ask those questions. But before I go into the, Q&A, I just wanted to say, I encourage everybody to check out CT's work. if you like, or just reach out to them. They're amazing people. Get them to work on your commercials, on your corporate videos, but also, you know, collaborate them as filmmakers. You know, this team at CT in San Francisco is like the most amazing group of creative individuals. Like, they're fun, they're talented, and I just like, I so appreciate the heart that you guys have for indie filmmakers and supporting the community, and just what you did for Bleeding Audio. Honestly, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you guys. Honestly, we would still be either crowdfunding or waiting, or like, you know, I don't even know. So honestly, thank you.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It was an honor to work on your film.
Absolutely.
It wasn't hard to say yes to. Seriously,
Agreed.
Your movie was great.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so enough gushing on me. Let's ask some questions. So, so here's a question. I'm not sure I totally understand it, but they were wondering how do you do the effect where the kid kind of stays in the picture, but it also has like the warping orbital effect? Like, how do you have that emphasis on a single subject in a still image, but then have this like 3D warp effect? Can you speak to that in a little more detail?
Adam, me?
Go ahead.
That's you, Mark.
Oh,
That's your department.
Yeah, the idea was to just bring a little bit more to those photos. We knew, you know, once we saw the high res, you know, photos, not the ones that were in your locked cut offline version. We got Sergio, another one of our artists, you know, said, hey, you know, we want to try to do this kind of 3D thing around there. The actual like technical thing is a displacement map. That's what it's called. And you can you make a mat. Oh, this is boring already. I'm boring myself. Anyway, yeah.
There are some technical nerds on this Q&A.
This
Okay.
is what they want.
Yeah, this is what they want. Give the people what they want.
You make a black and white mat. The thing that's the most white is going to come closest to the camera, and then you kind of gradate everything back behind it, and then just do a slow like 15 to 20 degree rotation with the camera, and you kind of get that feel. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. On certain things it worked better. There was some great concert shots you had given us to use, you know, to where like we could really drop the crowd back and have the back of the band on stage, you know, have that sort of thing. And we ended up doing it to about 50 or 60 photos, I believe, here and there. Like, some work really well, others, you know, there might be something cool in that one. We're not
Basically,
sure.
a lot of rotoscoping and paint, though, right?
Yes, because you have to single out the main person who you want to pop off the page, or the main subject.
And then depending on how much like of that parallax happens, you might have to paint in some of the
some other stuff,
background that
so
is
you don't
being
get scenes.
exposed. Yeah.
If you literally move something one more degree, the entire photo falls apart. Like, oh, it's like seeing the guy behind the curtain sort of thing.
Yeah.
But worse, but the guy was in a horrible grease fire.
You answered it. You did
Terrible.
it.
Okay.
Thank you. Somebody says here in the chat, not boring at all. So you're speaking to the right audience. Okay, so here's a good
type that in.
No, I'm bored.
Here's a good one. So this is another one for Mark. Can you talk about how you came up with the font and style for the text, and choosing that design, and how you came up with it?
Yeah, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted it to feel like you're using a magic marker on masking tape. That was my original idea. And I say magic marker because I'm 100 years old, and I'm not going to say Sharpie. I'm not going to say chisel point Sharpie. I'm going to say magic marker. There you go. Something like that. And they smell better. So that was the thing. And then I found a font that supports it. I found a royalty-free font that we could use. But I did make a donation to the author of that font just for the sake, you know, because, you know, this guy saved me a lot of trouble and caused me more trouble. So he actually owes me money. And then you didn't like the S. I remember you didn't like the S that the font had. but the lowercase s was cool.
There were two S's, and yeah, one of them just looked way better than the other.
Yeah, the cap S had a little jank to it, but the lowercase s was cool. So every time you saw an S on the main graphics throughout the film, the names of people and such, I always took the lowercase s, enlarged it just for you, just for you. I was going to do it all to the end credits at the very end. I did it to some, but not all of them, because there were some names I didn't like in that end credits. So I'm like, you're getting the bad S. You don't even need an S in your name. You're getting a bad S in your name. So that was that.
And did you use that same font for the poster, or that you designed that separately?
The poster is the same as your movie title. I used the same, the actual same art where the bleeding audio comes in the movie itself, and then used an Illustrator file of that, made it vector art, threw it up there, and did all the little spray paint by hand around it. And yeah, that was all based on the same font. And, but each letter has their own little uniqueness to it. I didn't use the guy's font verbatim for the title because I had to make it my own in a way.
Oh, cool. So you painted out the bleeding audio titles. So it's like the font, but kind of adjusted?
Well, each part of each letter of the font itself, I tweaked a little bit. I didn't want it to look exactly like this guy's font. I wanted to make it my font. It is now called Mark Bold Italic. So
amazing.
Mark Bold.
Mark Bold.
Italic.
Oblique,
I mean. Sorry, oblique. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, here's a question for Adam. All right, I think I already know the answer for this one, but let's hear it from you. What was the hardest scene or moment to color grade?
Oh, God. I'm curious. What do you think it is?
I'm just going to assume it's Justin's interview.
Justin? Oh,
His
man.
Interviews.
I forgot about that. I was thinking of something else.
Because you had PTSD and blocked it from your mind?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds about right.
So for context, Justin Sansucci, bassist in the Matches, his primary interview through the film, it was a very long interview. It was a collective 6 hours that took place across like an entire day with a lot of stops and starts. We're a low budget indie film. So we didn't really have any lights. We just kind of were using bounce and light changes over the course of 6 hours. And so we brought in this footage to Adam and we were like, great, make this look the same. Did you want to take it from there?
Yeah.
The
first problem with that was that he changed his clothes at some point in that interview. So that was
something separate. That was something separate, actually. That was something different. He snuck in an old interview in a couple of those.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think like what made that so difficult. It was.
Let me give you a quote of what you said.
Okay.
He has no color to his skin.
Or his skin is the same color as the wall.
Yes. Yeah. I just kept hearing these little. That's what it was. So that was definitely. I mean, just to be completely honest and kind of boring technical. That interview footage is like a prime example of what makes something like an Arri Alexa or a Red or any kind of black magic camera or any sort of like digital cinema camera that shoots raw files, like just so worth it as compared to something like a 5D or some kind of DSLR that shoots to a compressed format inside the camera. And the reason that the thing I'm referring to specifically is just in the color fidelity, the amount of color information and precision in the file. Like that compressed, the way that the definition of the file being compressed is that it's throwing out information. And one of the ways it does that is it throws out information that it has in
in plethora. Like if something is the same color as something else, the computer or the camera throws that data out. So you end up with someone who has the same color in their skin as the wall behind them, or whatever it is. And that's always just, no matter what you do, is very challenging to work with, because the more processing you put on something, the weirder it tends to look. So that was a challenge for sure.
So Chelsea, after you would leave the office, this is the shit we would have to listen to if him complaining.
So I'd get all the nice.
Fucking know what color space means? No, she doesn't. It's like it would just be. It's like, oh God.
I know. Those 5D
contrast.
shots. Yeah, those 5D shots with the red were rough. But okay, cool. That was a great question.
Great answer too.
Thanks.
So I would love to wrap it up here a little bit. That's looks like that's all of our questions for right now. I guess I do have one final question, which is really about, up and coming filmmakers, but also people who want to work in post finishing. Is there anything that you would encourage them to do or learn, or anything that you feel like would just be, I'm looking at you, Mark, anything to say encouraging for this, like, people who are interested in what you guys do and
Absolutely.
want to themselves?
Well, the most important thing, first and foremost, is the three of us have all made our own movies. We all make our own stuff, and we all kind of ended up in the post-production world. That just became the part that I went after. I mean, I wanted to do that stuff. I didn't want to deal with people. I didn't want to be a director, because you got like 50 people that don't listen to you. So, here at the shop, I only have 5 people that don't listen to me.
We try not to listen to you, but you make it really hard.
Oh, you could not wait for that. You're a filmmaker, and we've made a couple of Melanie's movies in our office that she wrote and directed, and then Adam's weird music videos from back in the day, and my little animations that I do. And the reason I do little animations is because I'm the writer, director, and the crew and the star of my own little movies. So to work.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just add that something I think is just so important, and I deeply appreciate anytime I work with anyone who has spent the time to do this, and that is spend the time to read a lot and learn all of the old school shit that seems out of date, antiquated, not applicable. Pick up a copy of the ASC cinematographer's manual. That thing is just full of old, antiquated technical stuff and details of traditional post-production workflows and things like that. That is just, it's so important. The old ways of doing things, in my opinion, are still kind of the best ways of doing things, and are really the way a lot of things at the top end of the industry are still done, and it's that way for a reason. So things like EDLs and XMLs now, but both, know what an EDL is, know how to open an EDL and read it yourself, and know what everything means in there, and be able to edit it manually. Things like that are just super important, I think.
Yeah, and to speak to that too, I feel like there's, for whatever reason, there's a clash of the old versus new right now. I feel like there's a lot of that happening, especially now that there's a lot of streaming going on. But I think, to your point, Adam, it's remembering that all the digital technology that exists today was, inspired by, or, the foundation are those, original old school film elements.
So all the new digital stuff
brought
is
there.
Emulations of old analog.
Exactly.
Right.
So
even with the same terminology.
Exactly. So knowing your stuff. Knowing your stuff is so important, and it makes it so much easier when you do eventually, start working in this field, because I know at least for me, you know, going from being an assistant editor to now a director, like I still use so much of that foundation of that technical understanding. And even though the technology has changed significantly since I've been like hands-on assistant editing or editing, because I did edit for a while too, it's like I know the foundations enough for all of these tools to be able to find my way through it. You know, like, oh, this is upgraded like 6 times. Yeah, you know, you can still.
And we've heard you say a number of times, "I'm not a documentary filmmaker." I heard you say that. You know what, Chelsea? You're a hell of a documentary filmmaker.
Thank you.
You better make another one. I'm not joking. Don't
well,
come
my next doc. People have been asking me. They're like, "Oh, what's your next documentary going to be?" And my answer is funded. So
okay, then you can come to us.
So yeah, but no, I do have some screenplays, so maybe I'll hit you guys up if one of those gets produced here sometime.
Sounds like
year,
fun.
maybe. But no, so we heard from Adam about things that they want the next generation to know. Mark, Melanie, anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say like don't be afraid to hit up a place like our studio or somewhere else, even if you're like just getting started on your film and you want to just chat through some stuff, because a lot of times there's technical questions that if they're answered at the beginning of the project, make it a hell of a lot easier on the back end of the project. And I know like we are totally down to, if an independent filmmaker comes to us and they're like, we're going to work on this project, but we don't know this or that about post-production, like we're more than willing to chat with someone and give a little technical expertise where we can. And I know that there's other shops around that would do the same thing. So don't feel like you can't reach out to people that may know a little bit more and ask questions. And like I said, it makes it a lot easier when you do go to finish your film, to have done it right from the beginning.
Second.
I love it. Well, that feels like a really good place to stop. And so thank you guys so much for being a part of this panel. For people who have tuned in, this is a conversation with, are you guys going by CT or CTSF right now?
CTSF.
Yeah, ct-sf.com.
Yeah. And you know, their work on Bleeding Audio, but also their work as a finishing house. If you are an independent filmmaker in San Francisco, you're looking to get your film finished, you know, maybe you want to talk to some people. I mean, like, definitely hit them up. I don't want to, you know.
No, it's fine. Yeah, hit us up.
But,
Thank you.
How can an indie filmmaker get in touch with you guys? What's the best thing for them to do?
They can always email me. If you just go to our website, ct-sf.com, you can find my email address there. Also, you can always message us or find us on Instagram. We are very active on Instagram.
And
CTSF Studio.
And
we're also on TikTok as of like 2 days ago.
I'm the oldest guy on TikTok.
I don't even have a TikTok. I don't
get
know how
it.
it works.
I don't either. I'm just amused by it.
I love that Mark is the champion of TikTok here. So I guess check out CTSF on TikTok.
Absolutely. Check out our card tricks.
Yeah, the card tricks are great.
Stands for is card tricks.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for, you know, saving Bleeding Audio's ass, and thank you for being such amazing collaborators, and thanks for being a part of this conversation.
Congratulations,
Chelsea.
Chelsea. Congratulations to you. Seriously.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Likewise. Can't wait to bother you guys with the next one.
We can't wait.
Bring it on. I dare you.
Awesome.